Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have a very special guest today who I'm sure a lot of you recognize from Girls Night In and SPWF Facebook page and all that stuff from the past. So, Lisa, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, for you to tell us all where you've been, and then we'll go through, just whatever you want to tell us about yourself and your relationship.
Okay. My name is Lisa. I think my screen name is Lisa. My husband was a life prisoner that was awarded parole a year ago, actually, this past month.
Oh,
so yeah, for that, it was kind of crazy because we kind of had the trifecta. We had him have his birthday, then he went to board and got a date, and then we had a family visit. So it was the whole weekend that we had like this major, okay, everything fell in good.
Wow.
So it was just like, we met inside prison. So everything happened kind of at the same prison. We met each other there. We fell in love with each other there. We got married there. And I think when that happens, like everybody just kind of sees everything, like, there's really no kind of private anything.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's just kind of like a piece of that, and they're just kind of like, yay, when you get out and everything goes good, it all goes good.
Yeah.
But I think for my husband and I, we were together 10 years. And the family visits, we probably had more than most, but probably about 5 or 6 of them before he got his date.
Okay.
So it was wonderful and bad at the same time because, you go through the after visit blues.
Yep.
Imagine going through the after family visit blues where you've actually spent time with him and sat on the couch and watched a movie and, and then you have to leave and you're just kind of like, you get in this bus with a couple other girls that are just kind of like boo-boo faced and they're like, yeah, exactly. And you have to leave. Until
just listening
until the next time.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a different experience. I was raised in a pretty good, Mexican traditional family. Mom is Mexican, dad is Mexican and Black. And I was at the prison for my niece getting married. Never had I gone to prison. Never would I have said, hey, I'm going to take that little, the tall black one in the back there because I kind of like him.
And he really is in the back. He's right behind you.
Yeah, that was a picture he had drawn.
That's beautiful.
From one of the guys that got out before him. And the guy, I guess, is pretty famous.
Oh.
So, yeah, he had it painted and sent home to me. That's a visiting picture, believe it or not.
Oh.
So, like I said, I met him, and we were friends. I think he liked me more than I liked him because I really, truly didn't like him. And I was just like, I left that day because he kept smiling at me. And I was just like, he was with some girl and she was crying. And, you don't know anybody's story for real.
Mm-hmm.
Turned out that was his ex-wife, and she came up to tell him she was leaving him, but she did the whole Academy Award thing and, the boo-hoo and, but she had already done her thing. So he just kind of was like, he looked shell-shocked, and I was just like, why is this man smiling at me? Like, and I was in a relationship too, not a good one, but it was kind of ending. So I just kind of was like, you know what, I'm leaving for today. I've had enough. So I left. And then like a week or two later, my niece said, hey, my husband got a couple letters for you. And I'm like, what? Like a couple of letters for me? Like who would write me? Like, I don't know anybody there but your husband. And it turned out that 2 different males had wrote me. And one had seen my picture and one was my husband. So I was like, oh, please tell me it wasn't the tall one in the back that kept smiling at me. And she was like, yeah, it is. So I read his letter and I was struck by his genuineness. And he just kind of said, like, you know, I'm in a bad situation. If you can find it in your heart to be my friend, awesome. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go up and visit this guy and see what it's all about, see what he's all about. Because it struck me that, you know, usually you hear the mystique about, you know, all prison guys just want to use you. And they just, you know, I went through the whole thing with the family and kind of did still, even when he got out. But we became friends. And within 6 months, he was like, I want to marry you. And I was like, no, I think we need to know each other a little bit better. Like, you don't know me. I don't know you. So we just kind of, I visited pretty much every weekend because he wasn't very far from home, maybe about an hour and 15 minutes. So it was, you know, he stayed there the whole entire time, which was good for us because they didn't do the whole, guess what, you're moving tomorrow and we're going to take you halfway across the world. So we had a situation where we got in trouble in the visiting room. I had no clue what was going on. Somebody tapped me on the back. I was warming up food. Somebody tapped me on the back and they had my husband with his hands behind his back. And I was just like, what is going on? Well, turned out that he had arranged for something and got caught. I had no clue, but since I was the visitor of the day, I'm the one that got in trouble. And I said no to a strip search because I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't, you know, I don't even know what the hell's going on. And he had a look on his face like he was going to cry because I think he thought, you know, this is it. She's going to leave me, you know. I mean, who wouldn't? Like, you don't even know what's going on. So we lost visits for a year behind that. And I was just like, wow. It turned out it was tobacco. And my son went up to visit him because in the letters that he would send me, he kept saying, I want to marry you. I want to marry you. I want to marry you. So I had my son go up and visit him. And my son is probably my closest son. He's a minister. He's just my thank you, Lord kid. If you had one like him, you would have 10 more like him. I mean, just never caused problem, never. And I knew that he would be the one to sit down with my husband and say, you know, what's in it for you? What do you want with my mom? Why, you know, you don't even know her. And of course he did that. And my husband said, you know, nothing is off limits. He can ask me whatever he wants to ask. And my son walked out of there and he was like, I like him. I think you should marry him. And I was just like, what? Like, because I had sworn when I divorced that I would never get married again. And so we decided we were going to do it. We did it at where he was at the facility he was at. And everything just kind of stopped when we got married. Everybody was just like, all the COs were like outside and they were just like no visitors were being processed. And it was just like everybody wanted to see, I guess, maybe if I was really going to do it or not. And they were just like, we don't think she's going to do this, you know, because I think everybody knows, you know, that this was not the norm for me. You know, you see women that go in that are kind of like the groupie type. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, you know, and then there are those of us that are not even, and you would be like, what? What do they do? What is she doing with him? You know? And I became the inmate family council chairperson after we got married. Well, right before we got married. And so I would go in and have meetings with the warden and we would discuss visiting issues, you know, tampons for the ladies, toys for the kids. How would we spend the money that the CDCR gives for, visiting? What we were going to do for Christmas. And I know they must think me like crazy because they usually didn't do anything. And I usually bought coffee or, and hot chocolate and made sure that all the kids got gifts and, candy bags and, just kind of stuff like that and things that I could. And we always met with the MAC reps. So pretty much everybody knew me. And my husband would joke around that, he was the first man because I was the mayor. And I was just like, yeah, okay, babe, whatever, And I did a tour. I did a tour one time of the facility with the warden. And within 30 seconds, my husband appeared out of nowhere. Like I had just walked in the door. And when he came out, he said to me, 5 people came up to me and said, "Is that your wife walking through with the warden?" And he was like, "What?" So he was like, "Yeah." So I had to come and make sure. And he kind of followed, back in the background, little, where I went in the facility. And so for us, it was just kind of like the living life there kind of thing. When he got his date, it was very surreal because they took 6 hours. They grilled him for 6 hours. My husband was a facilitator for Gang Members Anonymous, Criminals and Gangs Anonymous. Did all the groups, he was in college. He did a lot of stuff and he was pretty well known because he had been there for a long time. So everybody knew him and everybody knew us. So, COs wrote letters for him, for him when he went to board. And it just so happened that this thing took 6 hours. And by the end of it, there wasn't a dry eye. And when he got his date, he was just over the moon, my birthday, I got my date, and then I get a family visit with my wife, So, and I guess he never thought, when you're a lifer, I guess you never think the day is going to come.
Oh, I just got chills.
And you give up on things. And I'm the type of person that I'm like, not giving up, not until you walk out this door. And I think the day that he walked out the door, he was kind of shocked. And COs hugged him. ISU came out to me and hugged me and said, he's going to do great. You guys are going to be good. You got, and I think the problem that I have with CDCR is that they send these guys to classes. They make them go to class for this and class for that. And, but they don't do anything for the family.
Yeah.
So when you pick up a person that's been in for so long, he went in at 18. He came out at 53. He's a 53-year-old man coming out. I think that you can prepare them all you want, but nobody does anything for us outside. And I know that I've done, things with your organization, and you guys have been a lifesaver for me because I met people who, like Team Diaz, she's the bomb. She's the bomb. She's, she's my girl. Whenever I need anything, I'll call her and be like, oh, dude, this is what happened today. And she'll be like, you can do this. You're a strong person. And, I say, she's me 15 years ago.
Mm.
And there's a lot similar about us. She has the 3 boys. I have 3 boys. Only her little one is younger. My little one is 25, so he just acts younger. But, and I think it's good to have people that you go through it with. For me, it's been especially cool because I've had the family members that have gone through it too. And nobody says to you, hey, when he comes home, he's going to have a problem with getting to places on time. And I'm a person that I'm there 15 minutes beforehand. If you tell me 1 o'clock, I'm there 12:30, 12:40, 12:45. Not so much with him. And you
Can
would
you
think
tell
he
me
has hair.
why? What the,
I don't know if it's the mentality of like everything for them is there on the
yeah,
facility, so they don't have to actually, and I mean, they wear pants that don't have zippers. They, you
yeah,
know what I mean? They all
yeah,
wear the same thing. It's not like, I have to sit here and decide. Choices can be, if you give somebody that just got out choices, well, what do you want to eat today? Uh, I don't know. You pick something.
yeah.
Well, do you want Korean barbecue? No, I don't want that. Well, do you want a hamburger? No, I don't want that. It's kind of like, okay, um, he once told me sitting at visit, like, they've taken everything from me. I don't even know what my favorites are anymore.
Mm.
So you get out and you say, do you want to have a milkshake? Yeah, I want a milkshake. Well, what flavor do you want? Um, Vanilla? They don't even know that there's 5 different flavors that they can
Yeah.
choose from. Um, Getting to work. When my husband got out, he went to a halfway house, and nobody prepares you for parole and how they treat you. Family, I mean. Most of these guys get out and they have no one. So for them, it's like they treat everybody in this mold. That's like a solo mold. And if you have somebody, they kind of treat you like you're an outsider. To me, they did. And it was just like, okay, well, thank God he had 50 miles and I was 30 miles from him. So he could come home, but he had to go back at a certain time. So it was like dating a teenager. You, I can take you home, but you got to be back by 9, you know, and, for him, he did the BARDing and busing thing. And I think for somebody that just gets out, he had a hard time with personal space. You know, he said to me, um, I got on the BART today and somebody grabbed my ass. And I was just like, well, where for us, it wouldn't be any big deal.
Yeah.
For somebody just coming out of prison, that, you could get in some trouble for that. You know what I mean? And he had no clue who it was. They were standing on the platform. It could have been a man. It could have been a woman. It could have been,
Poor
so
guy.
he was even more like, it could have been a man that grabbed my butt. And I was just like, well, not much you could do about that. So he got pretty good at riding the bus and the BART to the things that he needed to do, because when he got out, they also made him do more classes. And I'm like, more classes upon more classes upon more classes. He was in there 36 years. He did every class known to man,
Yeah. Were they
and
paid?
then they have him get out and make him do more.
He had to pay for these classes, or did you guys have to pay for these classes?
No, I didn't have to
Okay.
pay for them, but it was just an invasion of time.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out this life together
Yeah.
afterwards. And there really is no life together afterwards, because they have him going here and there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And then the counselor that he was involved with that was doing these classes, just thought that any decision made was going to be made between her and my husband. And I was like,
Ooh.
I actually said to her face to face, I said, look, sweetie, maybe you don't understand how marriage works, because yes, you are going to talk about it, but trust and believe he will come home to me and we will talk about it. And then he will give you the answer,
Good for you.
And I said, maybe you don't understand how marriage works. And maybe because none of your guys are married, you don't think like that. But trust and believe that there are going to be some that are going to come after us that are going to be married or have family or something that you're going to have to deal with. So you should deal with it now. And I'm that type of person. And I told my husband, you better get her in line, because if you don't get her in line, I will get her in line, and it's not going to be very nice, because I live out here. And he was like, be careful what you say, I don't want to get in any trouble. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, we're not in there anymore. You don't have to worry about what you say. If anything gets said, it'll be by me. So, so you deal with, and then you deal with getting a job and getting your license. My husband still doesn't have his license yet. And he has the books. He's read them all. And he's just kind of like, I'm not sure if he's afraid, because he sees how people drive. You know how people drive out here. And I mean, California, it's craziness. I mean, people just zoom in and out. You could go on the freeway and be going 80, and people act like you're going 20.
What's interesting too? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem.
Michael Santos said that when he got out after 20 something years, he lost his depth perception, and it was so hard for him to relearn how to drive, because they don't have any kind of depth perception. Because like you said earlier, everything is right there for them. I wonder if that's adding to his fear too, because Michael said it took him a really long time to get that back and to be.
Well, it could be, but his cousin, who got out maybe the September before my husband, so maybe, I don't know, 8-9 months. He's driving. He has his Chrysler 300, brand new, like, super nice car. And I'm just like, and he keeps saying to my husband, what's up, dude? Like, when are you going to drive? Like, when, and I mean, the job that he had, he started working for Tesla, the motor company. I don't know if you know them or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he worked for Tesla 7 months, never missed a day. I mean, 12-hour days, working 6 days a week. There were days my husband would come home and sleep, and that was it. Eat, sleep, boom, and he was back at it again the next day. And I think, there were a couple of people that came from that house that worked there, and I think one maybe made a month, maybe 2, and it was just like but my husband got this award. It was called the Iron Man Award, and they were like, yeah, we want to hire you, and we like your work ethic. And right in the middle of them hiring him, he gets his physical. He's missing a P test. Okay. And he's like, P test, I got this down, no problem. Because I mean, they do them how many times in there?
Yep.
And right as that was happening, Elon Musk, which is their CEO, cuts 4,000 people, and they're all in that area. So he gets laid off.
Oof.
And he's like, me and him talk about it, and I'm like, babe, like, take some time before you go back to, you've been working hella hours, Christmas, everything. I mean, they worked them like dogs, and they were contractors. So yeah, it's cool. He knew that, but right as he was getting on, and I mean, all he had to do was the P test. He had done everything else. They laid them all off. And there was a couple of people.
Did he just get swept up in that layoff, or do you think it was because of his background is why he was one of the
No,
I
think he just got swept up in the 4,000 that he needed to get rid of.
Okay.
Yeah. But, for my husband, he took it kind of personal, because he was like, I've been there 7 months. I've been, every day, like, I never missed a day. I never, and to visit with his parole officer, it would always be like, he would have to get out early because he was working 6 to 6. And, parole, they work until 4:30, like, and he would be like, and I would have to come home from work, and, we would have to make arrangements for this guy to see him, So that's kind of been a challenge. They messed up his transfer from the Oakland parole to Santa Clara County parole. And he ended up having to go to Oakland to the halfway house there, which I thought the halfway house in Hayward was bad. And this one was probably, while the house was good, the area of Oakland, I watched a hooker bust go down.
Ooh.
I watched drugs being exchanged on the corner. And this is all dropping my husband off. And I'm like, yeah. So you put a house like that in the middle of Bosnia. It looked like Bosnia. I mean, tent city down the street, just like, what are you know, do they set you up to fail? I asked my husband one time, and he's like, babe, like, it's within the man. Like, you know, we're supposed to have the tools to be able to do all this stuff and to, you know, to surpass all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, you know, like, so not cool. Like, they just drop you in the middle of, and I mean, for him, he had me. So I would pick him up. We would go have dinner. You know, I would make sure that he got fed, and I would bring his clothes home and wash them, and, you know, which I'm sure other people don't have. So it's kind of, yeah. But for me as a person, I get frustrated, and it makes me angry that he just, to me, he lags. And there are times when, in the beginning, he doesn't do it so much now because I gave him so much grief about it. But I bought him jeans. And of course, he would wear black jeans to Tesla. And as he was walking out the door, it's just me, I don't know. I would look at the front of his pants. And if I saw his zipper open, I'd make a comment.
Because he didn't have zipper.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I'd be like, we selling hot dogs today? What's going on? You know, you know, because that it's just me and, you know, my sense of humor. But, and so now he, you know, he's routine with it and pulls up the zipper, and where he's working now, he just started like a week ago. They make him wear white pants and white shirt. So he's like, I look like the good humor man. And I'm like, no, you look like Mr. Clean, babe. Because, you know, he's black, bald head.
Yeah, I mean, you have to laugh about this stuff because we don't really have many options.
Right. So, and at first he started what they call an alternate shift. The alternate shift was working, like he worked Friday, and then he worked Saturday and Sunday. That was days.
Okay.
And then Monday and Tuesday, he worked nights. And that blew his whole, when I picked him up on Monday, he was like, I'm not doing this. I can't do this. Like, it's not going to work for me. He was like, what day is it? And it frazzled him so much. And I guess because he was so used to, we go to bed at 9, we get up at 5, we go to breakfast. You know what I mean? He's got this in his mind that it totally blew his mind.
Yeah.
So he talked to the lady that hired him because they have different shifts. And he was like, look, like, this is not going to make, you know, it's not going to work for me. Like, I, you know, I'm old and I'm like, you're old? He's like, yeah, well, you know, I have to use the old card somehow. So, when I picked him up on Tuesday, he said to me, hey, can you wait a minute? And I was like, yeah. So he went and he knocked on the HR window and said to the guy working inside, hey, can I talk to you? So he was gone for a few minutes, and I was sitting out in the car like, what is going on? And so when he talked to the girl had said, yeah, Sobe, which is the HR guy, wants to switch you over to first shift. So from one day to the next, they switched him over, and I was like, damn it, because, you know, he was working 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that gave me time to come home and kind of get stuff done, cook. You know, I love to cook. So that was my cooking day. And his first night, he FaceTimed me, and I was like, my husband doesn't usually FaceTime. And I was like, you must be trying to check on me, see what I'm doing. So I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm cooking. So I take my little iPad into the kitchen and I'm like, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm doing. So he was like, oh, okay. And then, so now they've switched him to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 a.m., 6 p.m. And then he's off Friday, Saturday. And then today he's working 6 to 6. So yeah.
Okay. You have faced all of these struggles, and
yeah,
I have to congratulate you because you are the one and only MWI, met while incarcerated person who I know personally, who's made it past 6 months. So tell me what you guys did differently. There's so many struggles that were thrown in your lap and you couldn't navigate them. You couldn't get past it. You just had to kind of go through them. What did you guys do differently? How did you as a couple work through these things and stick together? How'd you make it?
Well, I think that me and my husband had always had the agreement that we would discuss whatever. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard because I'm not, at times I'm an open person, but at times you get me and I'm just kind of like hurt. My feelings are hurt or something, because he'll make, him and I, when we argue, we get ugly with each other because I'm a female him. He's an alpha and I'm a female alpha. So it's like, you want to get smart with me? I'm going to get smart with you. And that's just, and it's like, but so for us, we'll get mad and be like, and for me, I'm good at ignoring him.
Okay.
And I've realized that he doesn't like that. He's like a puppy. Like, how when you're mad at a puppy and you yell at the puppy and you're like, don't you do that again. And you act like they're not there. The puppy will come back and kind of be like, with the nose or, when I put my earphones in and I'm listening to music, he'll come and lay on the bed and he'll be like, look, like, we need to talk about this and we need to move on from it. So I think for us, that's been pretty much how we've done it, because I think a lot of times too, that and Team Diaz and I have been talking about that recently because, hopefully her husband will be coming home soon. And his family, he has a daughter that's 40 years old. And he went away when she was little. I think that family wants to, that people that never did much while I was here. I was here 10 years. Never saw a Father's Day card from this girl. Never saw, I would ask him, have you talked to your daughter? No. Have you, but yet she wanted him to be at her beck and call and didn't, and so I became personal enemy number one. Like, she took it out on me. She cussed me out. She threatened me. She threatened my husband, and he doesn't talk to her at this point because he's like, look, I don't need toxic people in my life. I'm trying to get my life together. They don't understand that in order for a parolee to travel, you have to have plans made. You have to have addresses for them. You have to have a pass filled out, and you have to have it approved by them. So yeah, I live here in Northern California. He came home to me. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, and my thing is, you've never been in the picture anyway. How can you now expect or want, and I get that she's owed the time, but I just didn't understand how you don't understand that there is hoops he needs to go through. Her mother was also in and out of prison. So how do you not understand that? How do you think that it's me just keeping him away from you? I'm not trying to keep him away from the girl, Ro.
Of course not.
I realize that she's part of his life, but she has to realize that he needs to figure out what his life is before he can address all these things, and he has one aunt left out of 9 aunts. His mother had 8 sisters, and there's one left, and he keeps saying, I want to go see her. I want to go see her. I want to go see her. Well, my son, the same one that went up to talk to him, used to work for Delta, and we had free flights. He now quit, but because he wanted to do teaching, but we had free flights, and I could not get him on a plane. He's never been on a plane. I cannot get him on a plane. And not even to see his brother would he get on a plane and go to South Carolina to see his brother, who he's wanted to see. Like, I mean, these people he wants to see, and I can't drive him there. It's just not, feasible. It's not possible. So I think, there's that too, and the family wants to, jump out of the woodwork and act like they've been there the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's hard for the female, because as the female that has been there the whole time and has handled everything and has, I would get a text or I would get a call and they would say, oh, well, tell my brother I love him. That's the extent of it. They would call me and be like, hey, does my brother need anything? And I'm like, nah, I got him. Like, I, us prison females, we send, my husband was well taken care of and is well taken care of now. He's fed and his lunch is made every day, and everybody at work is like, Mom, what is that? Did your wife make that? And he's, of course my wife made that. And, his lunch is like a sandwich and a soup and fruit and cookies and, the drink and and that's just lunch. It's not even his snack or, so a lot of things go into it, and you have to be a strong couple. So you have to work on being strong all the time. And I know that you and Adam have some really good communication too.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it is that communication. He was always part of decisions, and I always told him, I tell you out of respect, not that I know that, on things I have to make decisions. Now I make the decision that I feel is best for the family. If I can run it by you, I'll run it by you. We'll discuss it and it's good. But there are things that I can't, but I will tell you, this is what I did. This is why I chose to do what I did. Now, sometimes now that he's out, we bump heads about that too, because we're both alphas.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and I want to touch on what you said about the daughter, that it's kind of your fault and you're keeping her from him. And I think that's such a common thing that especially our MWI wives, girlfriends, whomever go through, even on the inside, where it's kind of like you're shining a light on the neglect that the neglect, I mean, that's kind of a harsh word, but that the family has forth for so long. So it's kind of like, well, now here she comes. Go ahead.
Right. I think for them, it's an out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And they're kind of relieved that they don't have to come out of pocket or, do anything extra. And, she, in dealing with her, she's said things to him like, I wish you had never gotten out. You should have never gotten out. And I'm like, this is an innocent man. And I mean, innocent. I've seen the medical reports of the person that died. My husband could not have been the one, but he was the one that would not tell.
Yeah.
He's the one that, okay, well, we need somebody, so it's going to be you because you're Black and you don't have money to pay for representation like you should have.
Sadly, so common.
So, I mean, it's, and she has mental issues herself, which I tried to be understanding of the first couple of times. I mean, she's just And I've told my husband, like, she's put it to she's put it to me like, you have sons, you should, understand where I'm coming from. You should want him to see his daughter. And I've always kept no comment to any of it. Any of the texts I've got from her, I've never answered back, because my comeback to that would be, my sons are not his sons, but they visited him more than you.
Yeah.
They've writ him more than you. They've done anything and everything he's needed more than you. So you came out of him, but to me, you're irrelevant. Because for me, my father passed of cancer 17 years ago. I would give anything. I would give anything. Even I would go up to a prison every weekend if it was my father.
Yeah.
So it's just going to depend on, we all have life, and yeah, we all do different things, and some of us have public jobs and some of us have, less public jobs. But I've worked for my company 30 years. And, do you tell your coworkers? Do you not tell your coworkers? What do you tell your coworkers?
Yeah.
Virtually nothing. Because my whole thing was, and I never posted pictures on Facebook or anything, and I kind of still don't, because I'm the type of person that I want them to know him as the person, not, oh, this is D who was in jail for 36 years, because people judge that way. And I'm sure that, when Adam comes home, you're going to want people to know Adam for Adam.
Sure.
This is Adam, my husband. Not this is Adam, the inmate that spent, you don't want that. You want them to know them for them.
Plus, it's not information that needs to be shared. Your boss doesn't come into the office and tell you about his or her relationship, nor I think that in these situations, I was just doing an interview the other day and I use this example. When I was competing in fitness, people would like to comment on my physique all the time, because I stood on a stage for judges to assess my physique at one point. But so everyone felt validated to do that. It's the same thing in a situation. Like, people feel validated to talk crap about our relationships because of that, but it's not public information to know anything about his past. So I think that's excellent advice to share. Like, what you should share about it is nothing. That was golden. That was so golden. So talk to me about this. If you could do it all over again and you had like a year or 6 months to prepare, what would you do differently to make the transition easier? What advice do you have for our girls that do, or men that do have that time to prepare?
Well, I thought I was prepared. You think, okay, well, home is good. I got him clothes. I got this, I got that. Nobody prepares you for the changes that they go through mentally. And that's my thing. Like, me and my cousin by marriage have talked about it. Ironically, we met online and didn't realize, on one of the other prison wife groups, and didn't realize that we were women to the two cousins.
No way.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. And she's like one of my biggest, and I'm like one of her biggest. She's like my sister. I think I love her more than my sister.
This isn't Team Diaz, though. This is somebody else?
No, it's somebody else. And she lived up in Sacramento. So I used to stay with her a lot. And her and I have become really super close. And I think, the cousin and I, the man, we're okay. I like him. I don't like some of the things he does to her, because he's a little different. The one thing I would like to discuss that's kind of bad is the what we call the day room effect. These guys go to the day room every day. When they get out, what do they have? Want to take a guess?
When they get out of the day room, what do they have?
When they get out of prison, what do they have that substitutes for the day room?
Oh, TV? I don't know. Nothing?
Casinos.
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay.
So she's working 3 jobs. He's not working any job.
Mm.
Drives a Chrysler 300, brand new, nice one, and has to go to a casino every day.
Ooh, that's such
She's
a good
about,
point.
she's about at the end of the rope with that one.
Can't blame her.
My husband gets periods of it like that, but I think I cured him of that because the last time that he went and I was like, look, I'm not going to sit here and watch.
Sorry,
I'm not
I'll
going
be
to,
right down,
it's okay.
sweetheart.
I'm not going to sit here and watch you throw away your money.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving. And he was like, I bet you'll be back to pick me up. And I looked at him and I said, I bet I won't. And I left him there. Worst thing for somebody, how's he going to get home? He doesn't even know how to tell somebody how to get him home.
Good.
He actually ended up calling my son who went to go pick him up, but he never called me. And he came in that night and he said to me, I'm sorry because you made me realize that what I'm doing is transferring one for another, So some people do realize it, but some people just don't.
Yeah. You know what, Lisa? A theme that's kind of been sown throughout your whole entire story has been such a huge lesson that I want to pass along to everybody watching this.
Uh-huh.
From the minute that you said when you met him and you got that letter, right, all the way until this story with leaving him at the casino, you're a strong, confident, empowered woman, and you know what you want, and you know
Mm-hmm.
what your boundaries are, and you know what you'll take and
Sure.
what you won't take. And a lot of people in
Right.
this situation get
Right.
scared, like, well, if I leave him at the casino, he'll never talk to me again. What am I going to do? And you're like, I need to teach him a lesson. If he doesn't want to be with me,
Well, I think one of the things that from the start, I had always told him, because I believed in him, I will help you with whatever you want. Even if nothing ever becomes of us, even if we're just friends. You say to me, hey, I can't handle life here. I need to go back to Long Beach. I'll help you.
yeah,
I may not go to Long Beach because that's not where I was born and raised. And, I totally get the fact that you were born and raised there and came here. But from 18 to 53, you weren't even home. So Long Beach doesn't even look like it should look or like it did when you left.
yeah,
So I think I would be fine. And I think it's because for me, I met him kind of later on. And I had my kids, I had my job, I had the house, I had the car. So I was pretty well set. I think that I feel bad for like the young girls that are in their 20s and they're, that are kind of doing long bids because I'm like, ooh, girl,
yeah,
would I have done it? Yeah, because, brass tacks, I love my husband.
yeah.
And that's the thing, he says to me every day, like, he thanks me for everything. And it's good and it's bad because I'm like, dude, like, really? Like, hello, this is what I'm supposed to do.
But no, but
But
it's not. You know what? And it's not what you have to do. And it's amazing that he remains grateful for you and doesn't take you for granted. That's wonderful.
every now and then, that's, I think, one of the other things I wanted to discuss too. Every now and then they get into this selfish mode where, it's all about me and it's all about, and I had some of that yesterday when we were supposed to do this interview yesterday. And I said, hey, I'm going to do an interview for SPWF. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't get to do my interview. And I was like, where I took for granted that, hey, maybe he'd pop in the interview and he'd give your girls some, tips or whatever. He did it like, oh, well, just forget it then, like, and I was just like, whatever, like I canceled. So it's not any big deal because then I thought, you know what, I'll just do it by myself because at times it's all about them.
Mm.
It's all about me. And I understand that in prison, they have to be that way. And I don't think they're real good at differentiating when or where that happens. And me and Team D we've talked about it time and time again, that the body is 53, but you never really know what age is going to come out. So
I
you could be
love the way you put
talking
that.
to the 8-year-old D. You could be talking to the 15-year-old D. You could be talking to the 50-year-old D. It's just going to depend, who comes out at that moment. Because
Wow.
there will be times when I'll say something to him and he'll giggle like a boy. And I'm just like, and then there are times when he'll be like, no, we need to do it this way, or we need to, and I'm just like, what? And a lot of the times they know everything better than we know it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I've lived out here. You've read it in a book, or, and you want to tell me how, and one of the things that kills me above all else, he will throw the fact that he's a 4.0. I'm a 4.0. And yeah, you got an award for being a 4.0. But hey, 4.0, how about you make a reservation on your phone for a hotel for us tonight? Couldn't do it. I can't drive and make a reservation on my phone at the same time. So apparently your 4.0 didn't help you with shit. And that was kind of the thing I made to him. Like, no, I'm not a 4.0. And, but I know how to make a reservation. And because he could not make that reservation, the hotel room that we stayed in cost us $40 more.
Oh, lesson learned.
Like, yeah. Yeah. So cell phone, that's going to be another challenge.
Was it fun? I bet was it like funny for you to watch?
Some of it was fun. Some of it not so fun, because like when I gave it to him, my son is a whiz, the baby one. I bought the phone like a week before. I had my son program it with his number and his brother's number and my number and my mom's number, numbers that he might need in any situation that he's going to be in, right? And I said to you, well, these are your contacts. And he goes, wait a minute. Do I get to put in contacts on my own? And I was like, yeah, these are like the numbers that you might need, like my mother, my son, and so that's been kind of interesting. Adding like Musi is a music service that's like videos. He has people in the music industry that he grew up with. So, a lot of them he'll say, yeah, so-and-so this and so-and-so that. And I'm just like, it's not like, they're not people who are they're well known. So it's like, okay, whatever.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
It's cute for me because I don't have to live with him.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be calling you one day like, I can't take him.
Yeah, you will. Because there are days that I love him to death, and there are days that I'm like, please just get out of my face.
Yeah.
Just go away.
And I have to say, because I hope,
TV.
Yeah, and I hope Adam watches these videos one day, and I'm sure that'll work both ways. So I'm sure
yeah.
Go in another room. Please.
And I'm sure that he feels that way about me as well.
Yeah.
Because
marriage, right? Like,
I know that I can be annoying as hell.
Yeah, we all can. But that's marriage.
For me, my mommy mode never stops. When you're a mom, it never stops. Yeah. And you're like, do it this way, do it that way. Don't forget this, don't forget that. And he'll look at me and be like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah. He's not the kid. But I'm just so used to doing it.
Of course. Oh. Well, I love this so much. We've been on almost an hour, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know, but I loved it, and I'm sure everybody will love it. It was so informative. And I would love to have you back, and even D back if he wants. I would love to see your guys' dynamic. You don't have to answer yes or no now. You guys work it out. but I'm sure there'll be tons of questions that come up from this video.
No problem.
We can do this another time as well.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy for you guys. I remember living. I know I miss your face. I was actually on a live video this morning and I was like, you guys are going to love it. Some of you know her. I was like, she's my Mexican sister. We're like Mexican Italian, but like sisters, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But this was so fun. And I said, I go, and when I don't hear from somebody after somebody comes home, I kind of love it. Sometimes I miss you, but I love it because it means that you're living your life and doing your thing.
I always stay on the app and I'm, like reading and things like that. The one thing that I want to tell all the girls, it's okay to miss them. It's all good. Don't stay there. Don't stay there because you know what? Life goes on. You have things you need to do and things that you need to get done. We can't always be like, oh, I miss Dee. And there were days when I did miss him horribly, but life can't stop for that. You have to continue and you have to be as strong as you can. You have plenty of other women there that should lift you up. Like you and Joe were, I hope she's okay. She's okay?
She's okay.
Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Tell her I said hi.
Yeah, you'll probably see her face and hear her voice very soon. We're working on something. So
awesome. And her husband, is he home yet?
Not yet. He has, I think, 9 more months.
Oh, nice. So soon.
Yep.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
They're working through the fun stuff right now that,
Oh, yeah. And Kat too, right?
Yeah.
Kat,
Kat's doing great.
Parole yet?
Almost. I don't know how much longer, but they're almost done. Yeah.
See, and that was one of the things in November, we wanted to go on a cruise with some family members out of Texas. And I asked the PO and the PO was like, I figured we would be done already because I've heard rumor that it's 18 months.
Okay.
And he would be off. It's already been a year. But I asked him anyway, just kind of like, hey, are we going to be able to go on this cruise? And he was like, where's the cruise going? And I was like, to the Bahamas. And he was like, no.
Just straight
and
up,
I was like,
no reason?
What? Yeah. And I was like, do we have a reason? And he was like, he's like, parole is not going to let him go out of the country. And I was just kind of like, oh, all right. So we could go to Texas for a party if they have a party, but we can't board the boat and go with them.
Got it. Okay.
So he was like, yeah, you can stay, you could go to Hawaii, you could go here, there, and everywhere, just not, he's like, you could even go to Puerto Rico, but you can't go. And I was just like, yeah, thanks.
Interesting. I mean, I knew that, but I didn't even realize, wow, I need to.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was nothing. I figured he'd be off by then anyway. It was just, out of courtcy. And I was just like, and I mean, he shot out a no, like he didn't even breathe. And he was like, nope. Okay. And I was like, well, thank God I only put a deposit down and I didn't really pay, a lot of money. But
that's also a really good lesson because when in doubt, ask.
Yeah. That's kind of what happened with his parole thing when they made him go back to Oakland. And that was for a month. He had to go back there for them to finally send everything to San Jose for him to come and live here.
Okay.
So be careful and know that the guys will probably not ask because I know that my husband was like, well, if I let them up on what's going on, then they're going to know and they're going to try to block. And I'm like,
but they know because here I had a friend who, I don't know if you guys have Easy Pass there, but like it's the I'm sure you have some version of it where it's an automatic toll pay in your car.
Okay. Yeah.
So
we have Fast Track.
Oh, yep. Same thing. His his Easy Pass notified his PO that he was going crossing over state because he was going from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and the PO got a call. And the PO was cool. I mean, he was like, I have to go back and forth for work. Yeah. It's not like I'm doing anything crazy, but it's those little things where they'll catch you.
Yeah.
Some way, somehow.
Crazy things that you don't even expect.
Just like that. Yeah.
I had a nephew who got out a couple of months after Dee. And he's gone through, I think, a little more PO-wise like his PO is changed. It seems like every other week, where Dee's had pretty much the same one since he came to San Jose. And I think that some of them are gung-ho about doing it by the book.
Yeah.
And some of them are, so that's kind of who you get, I guess.
Okay.
So, you know, I guess little things we have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's all worth it. And I'm so happy.
It's very worth it.
So
It's very
happy
worth
for you.
it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so this is probably a to be continued because there is so, I'm sure we could talk for
No
hours
doubt.
and hours and hours. But
Yeah.
I missed you. I'm so happy you came back. I'm so happy you texted me. And I'm
Well, maybe one of these girls' nights in, we can do a girls' night in where we can actually talk and people can actually ask me their questions.
Oh my God.
I know
yes.
when I do girls' night in, I don't usually show up on video. I did for you today.
I love you for it.
Thanks.
Everyone's like, Lisa with the pink hair? Yes. Lisa with the pink
That's
hair.
me. Yeah,
all right, girl.
That's me.
Thank you
All right.
so much.
Mwah.
Have a good day. I'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Have a good
Okay.
one.
Bye.
Bye.